All right, so I will go ahead and get started. And today we're going to talk about quiet leadership. So we often equate leadership with being loud and assertive and always being in the spotlight. But what about those individuals who lead differently, right? So those who observe, listen intently, and empower others to shine. And throughout my career, I've often had experiences and expectations that leadership should be loud, should be engaging, and extroverted. And I would strive to gain credibility and have my voice heard in the busy workplace. And there was a pressure to adapt to that larger than life persona to grow my career. And it may appear that extroverted individuals hold that dominant position in the business world, but this does not at all imply that leadership is limited to them alone. And throughout the years, I've learned that you can be a highly effective leader, even without those outspoken personality traits. And I've learned to embrace my personality as a quiet leader and lean heavily on it as a core leadership asset. All right. So what does quiet leadership mean to me? There's absolutely nothing wrong with being extroverted and assertive if that matches your personality. However, if that is not in line with your personality traits, that is okay also. You don't have to be the loudest one in the room to get ahead or to be an effective, successful leader. Instead, what it means to me is you simply embrace the skills that you are naturally good at. So quiet leadership is a style to me of leadership that doesn't rely on that flash or charisma, but instead it's about leading by example, being a really good listener and empowering others to do their best work. So quiet leaders often achieve incredible results. And I've seen this in my career because it's not through commanding that presence, but through fostering trust and respect within their teams. And they often understand that true leadership does come from inspiring others and not just giving orders, for example. So in fact, once I embraced my true leadership style, I found that when I had something important to say in a meeting or in a conference room, people actually listened more. And others could tell that when I spoke, what I had to say was purposeful. And I wasn't just talking to talk or to be heard, but instead, when I spoke up, it was because I had something influential or impactful to say. So again, in this world obsessed with extroversion and the cult of personality, it can be easy to overlook the power of a different kind of leader, right? So remember that quiet leaders, they may not crave the limelight or, rule by being the loudest one in the room. Instead, again, we lead by example through inspiring others, through action, empowering others to find their own voices. And this to me is the essence of quiet leadership. So I truly believe that effective quiet leadership, it's not about being shy. It's not about passivity. You still have super high standards, but it's more of a deliberate choice to lead with humility, empathy, and just also a deep commitment to the growth of others, which we'll talk about in just a moment. All right, so let's go through what I have found to be the essence of quiet leadership and some things I've learned throughout the years as I've found my own leadership style. So we'll go through examples of leading with influence rather than authority. And again, whether you're a quiet leader like myself, or you're looking to support a quiet leader on your team or maybe a colleague, I hope you'll find some of these tips helpful. And I'll go through a few examples, again, how as a quiet leader, you can inspire action through example and create a shared vision that everybody feels invested in. And we'll talk about how quiet leadership emphasizes listening, empowering others, and acting with humility and purpose. And again, if your natural leadership style is to lead with more of that outward charisma, that's totally fine. It's just if that is not your natural leadership style, that doesn't mean you can't be a successful leader, right? So as mentioned before, I truly, truly believe that effective, quiet leadership is not about shyness. It's not about passivity. And let's look at some techniques on how to embody this really powerful leadership style. And in my experience, leading with quiet confidence and thoughtful influence has led to a more powerful and more impactful presence at work. So as I said earlier, when I do speak up, it's with purpose and intention. I'm not just talking to hear my voice, right? Or to be the loudest one in the room. And over the next few slides, I'll go through some techniques that quiet leaders can use to create a more impactful and positive work environment where team members and colleagues, where they all feel valued, respected, and empowered to do their best work. So first, lead by example. We've all heard the saying that actions speak louder than words. And this is especially true for quiet leaders. So if you are a quiet leader, demonstrate your commitment through hard work, integrity, and a consistent dedication to the team's goals. So you want to roll up your sleeves and get involved, right? And this will inspire others to follow. And I've found that to be true. You want to model the behavior that you want to see and embody the values, communication style, and work ethic that you would expect of your colleagues and team members as well. And your actions will speak volumes about your leadership style. And again, as I mentioned before, and I think it's worth repeating, once I started staying true to my authentic leadership style and my authentic self, people listened so much more. It really does work. All right, let's cultivate deep listening. So quiet leaders understand the power of truly having what others have to say because they listen intently, and they create safe spaces for open communication. They value diverse perspectives, and they actively listen to understand. They're not just listening to respond. They truly want to understand what's being said and understand the different viewpoints. And by doing this, you can really foster that trust and allow yourself to make informed decisions that benefit everyone in the room, right? So in meetings, I personally spend a lot of time observing and analyzing what others are saying. And I truly, truly listen to what they have to say. I pay attention to all the small details, to the team dynamics and individual strengths and areas for improvement. And this helps me understand what motivates my team and my colleagues and how to best support their growth and the success of all of our projects. And I have personally found that this approach allows me to remember those small, important details that often get overlooked by others. And I'm able to come to the table with new ideas that may not have been thought of before because you're truly listening to all of those small details that could often get overlooked. So empowerment and trust. So quiet leaders, they can empower their team members by providing clear goals, offering guidance and support, and then take a step back and allow your team members or your colleagues ownership of that work, right? So this fosters that sense of autonomy and encourages individuals to just rise to that challenge, and empowering others to find their own voices and trust your team. So in my experience, I delegate tasks very strategically to empower my team members and my colleagues to grow and develop their skills. So I pay attention to what they're interested in and try to delegate appropriately. And I also provide very, very clear expectations and support, but avoid that micromanaging, and that has worked for me. But just because you're a quiet leader doesn't mean you don't have those very high standards, right? I still have the high standards and expectations for the work that my team produces, but I also make a great effort to recognize and celebrate successes. That's been very helpful also. So for example, just publicly acknowledging and celebrating individual and team accomplishments. And I've found that to foster a more positive environment, and it also encourages that continued excellence. And of course, the key is not to overdo it, right? But truly recognize great successes and achievements. All right, so master the art of persuasion. So quiet leadership, again, it's not about staying silent. Instead, it's about choosing your words carefully and using them to inspire, motivate, and influence your team and your colleagues. And by building strong relationships, communicating clearly and respectfully, and appealing to just the logic and reason of the projects you're working on, quiet leaders, they can effectively navigate very complex situations and garner that support for their vision. So in my experience, I have learned that influence does take some time. So giving myself that patience and building trust and influencing others, it does take time, especially for those quiet leaders out there. So being more patient with myself, but at the same time, remaining very persistent in my efforts, right? You're not just asking once and then giving up. If you need clarification, it just because you're a quiet leader doesn't mean you stay quiet. You're still persistent in your efforts, but you're being more patient with yourself. And if I need clarification for something, I ask as many times as I need to. And I'm not shy about expressing my opinions. Again, quiet leadership is not about being shy or passive, right? When I do present an alternative solution, for example, I come with the facts and with the data backing up my proposal, because I've spent so much time truly listening and truly analyzing all of the details. So when I do speak up, I'm very confident in what I have to say. Embracing continuous learning. So the journey of a quiet leader is one of constant growth, right? So quiet leaders are committed to expanding their knowledge, honing in on their skill set, and seeking out new perspectives. And I've actually found this to be a very strong trait of quiet leaders because they come with ideas and solutions, again, that may not have been thought of before by others. And this dedication to that personal and professional development, it allows these individuals to adapt to different challenges, and it allows them to guide their teams more effectively and just remain a source of inspiration, which is really important in our workplace. And one thing that has been extremely valuable to me personally is to just stay curious, right? So I stay open to new ideas, new approaches. I'm not shy about presenting those new ideas and approaches when it makes sense and when I have the data and information to back up my idea after I've thoroughly thought through what I want to accomplish. And I ask questions when I need to. And again, just seek out opportunities for personal and professional growth. All right. So reaping the rewards. So we've established that quiet leaders may not be the loudest voices in the room, but their approach offers a surprising number of benefits, both for themselves and for their colleagues or teams. And for example, some benefits for the leader that I have found in my personal journey as I've honed in on my true leadership style. First, reduce stress and burnout. So by empowering others and fostering that collaboration, I've avoided carrying the full weight of every decision, right? And this shared responsibility can really lead to that reduced stress and burnout that I've seen in previous roles in my career. And then just a greater sense of respect and trust, and leading by example, listening attentively, showing genuine care for team members naturally cultivates respect and trust. And this creates a more positive work environment for everybody. And I find that people actually appreciate when I remember a lot of the small details, because I really am actively listening to what they have to say, and details that may often get overlooked. They're very happy that people are paying attention. These quiet leaders are picking up on all of those details and using that in their suggestions for new ideas. I've also experienced enhanced observation and strategic thinking skills. So without the constant need to be heard, and I've experienced this, quiet leaders have the space to observe, to reflect on all of that information they're hearing, and then analyze the situations more deeply. And this allows for more thoughtful, strategic decision making, because again, you're observing, you're listening, and then you're reflecting on all of that information before you speak. So when I do speak, it's way more impactful and purposeful. And because you're listening in on those small details, it does allow for you to speak with that purpose and bring those new ideas forward with a lot of confidence. And there's also improved emotional intelligence. And this emphasis on listening and empathy and quiet leadership requires and strengthens my emotional intelligence. And this is a valuable skill in navigating these interpersonal dynamics, not just at work, but in your personal life as well. All right, so whether you yourself are a quiet leader, or you want to maybe empower a quiet leader on your team, or a colleague that maybe is a quiet leader, I hope you can use this information, because investing in a stronger team isn't just about boosting the bottom line, right? It's about fostering a more positive, creative, and driven work environment. So when I invest in my team, the positive impact resonates far beyond the increased productivity that we see. So remember that stronger teams are built on trust and that shared sense of purpose. So this leads to the increased motivation that we see, and a sense of ownership over the project and the goals and the tasks. And when individuals feel comfortable sharing ideas and collaborating freely, I've seen that creativity flourishes, and strong teams really embrace the diverse voices, both voices of quiet leaders and the more outgoing counterpart. They're both equally important. And in my experience, I've been able to provide that safe space for individuals to share ideas freely. And I have that mentality that there is no bad idea, right? I want to hear all of them and analyze them from there. And stronger teams, they're not afraid to take those risks and to innovate and to speak up when they have something important to say. And additionally, a cohesive team, you can think of it like a well-oiled machine, right? And quiet leaders excel at building strong relationships. So everyone understands their role, supports one another, and works together efficiently. And this leads to that greater job satisfaction and greater satisfaction within the team in general. And strong teams also provide a healthy training ground for our future leaders. So by fostering that collaboration and providing those opportunities and supporting interests and goals, we can help develop that next generation of the strong, capable leaders. And being a quiet leader doesn't stop you from doing any of this. And as I wrap up my portion, I just want to mention again, quiet leadership, it may not be flashy, but it is a powerful force for positive change. It's a style that prioritizes substance over just talking to be heard. It prioritizes collaboration over that control, and ultimately the collective good over somebody's individual ego. And in a world craving authenticity and just that meaningful connection, it really is time for quiet leaders to step out of the shadows and just illuminate their path forward. And again, whether you yourself are a quiet leader, or you have quiet leaders in your personal life or your team at work or colleagues, that you'd like to inspire. I hope some of these tips have been helpful, and all of us can contribute to a culture where that quiet leadership does thrive. Thank you.
Well, Tania, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And yes, just as a reminder, if anyone would like to ask a live question, you can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. But we'll go to some of the questions that came in through the chat. This one from, we'll go with this one from Anna, and she says, "This is great. I am a quiet leader. I do well with extroverts, but not with bullies. Any advice on standing my ground?"
I think just what I've also had that experience, especially when I worked in the tech field. Just sticking to the facts, right? Just coming forward with the facts and just not getting emotional, which is hard for me also because I am very sensitive and I've had that happened to me in the past, but really just sticking your ground, sticking to the facts. This is why I want to do something this way. Here are the facts. Here's the data. Here's, what other teams are doing that would support that goal, and presenting just the facts that support your ideas and your way has been really helpful for me. And I mean, ultimately not showing that, it's so hard to not let it get to you, but just not showing that emotion, right? And just sticking to the hard facts and evidence that you have from listening in on the project details, whether it's a project you're working on, and replying with facts and data has helped me.
Oh, well said. Wonderful advice. Thank you. All right, I think I'll let this be our final question before we move to Erin's presentation. And Una says, "I want to learn new things, but I'm so bogged down with day-to-day tasks. How can I express my interest in new tasks and ask for help with other tasks?"
So I think it's always important to advocate for yourself and what you want to develop with your skills. I personally, in my one-on-one meetings with my manager, whether it's every other week or at least once a month, we'll meet weekly, but once or twice a month, I will set aside time to discuss my development, my personal development, and what I want to grow and work on. And then ask what tasks can I work on to help support some of these developmental goals that I have for myself. So I think, speaking about it repeatedly, at least once or twice a month is what I've done. Even though we meet weekly, I won't bring it up every single week, but I make it a point of every other week. Here are my personal goals. Here's what I want to work towards. What can I do? What tasks can I work on to help support this? Or maybe as your manager starts to figure out, what tasks and goals and interest everyone has, there may be a way to finesse some of those tasks amongst the team. But it is hard, right? Because you do have your daily tasks that have to get done no matter what. But I think when you advocate for yourself and you're more vocal about what you want, and you're well prepared also, like how does that tie back to your current role, your future goals? I really do believe as you repeat it over and over, it'll start to resonate with your leadership team. And I've seen this happen as well. It might have taken a couple of months for it to click, but eventually they start to see, okay, here's a new project that would support, this person's goals and interests. Let me see what I can do with that. So
that's great advice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap and move on to Erin's presentation, do you have any final words of wisdom for all of our viewers today?
No, I mean, thank you so much for having me. And I just wanted to re-emphasize that, there's nothing wrong with being that extroverted, louder voice in the room if that matches your personality trait. But, for so many years, I would try to be that, even though that wasn't me, and it would just kind of turn awkward, right? So once I really honed in on my true leadership style and embraced those skills, that's when I started just growing much quicker in my career and personal life. And it just staying authentic to your true self, whether that is being more of a quiet leader. And if you're not a quiet leader, knowing how to support them, right? So you may have, if someone doesn't speak up in a meeting, for example, it may not be that they don't care. It may be that they're actively listening and want to digest that information before they speak up. So just understanding that from the flip side as well.
Thank you for that. Well, we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Well, now we are going to move on to our next presentation. So Erin, can you say hello?
Hello, how are you all today?